Everyone knows the legendary weapon of the assassins, the hidden blade. A sleek device, a deadly surprise, the symbol of stealth and precision. It looks so perfect on screen, so elegant in the games and movies. But here's the shocking truth, the hidden blade is a lie. A beautiful, fascinating lie. What you've seen for years is not a historical weapon. It's not even a practical weapon. It's a fantasy, carefully built to impress you, not to save the life of an actual killer. And today, we're going to break down why the assassin's blade is not what you think it is. The myth starts with the real assassins of history. Yes, there really was a group in the Middle Ages, the Nizari Ismailis, who earned a terrifying reputation between the 11th and 13th centuries. They were fanatics, spies, political killers. They struck fear into sultans and crusaders alike. But if you read the chronicles of the time, you will notice something strange. They never mention a hidden blade. They carried daggers. They used poison. They ambushed their enemies with knives in crowded cities. No spring-loaded gauntlets, no magical retractable knives. The iconic hidden blade was invented much later, by writers, artists, and eventually video game developers. So why do people believe in it? Because it looks cool. It fits the fantasy of the perfect silent killer. But if you take a closer look, the design collapses. Imagine strapping a small mechanism to your wrist, with a blade that shoots forward. You'd need a spring, a locking system, a release trigger. Sounds simple? Not in the 12th century. Blacksmiths back then could make swords and daggers, sure. But precise clockwork-style mechanics with strong steel springs? That was far beyond their technology. Even if they tried, the device would be bulky, unreliable, and extremely dangerous to the user. One wrong flick, and you stab your own arm. And let's not forget, the blade length is limited by the forearm. At best, it's the size of a short knife. Good for cutting bread, not so good for assassination. Think about real combat. To kill someone with a single stab, you need force, control, and reach. A knife in your hand gives you all three. You grip it tight, you direct the blow. With a hidden blade strapped to your wrist, you lose almost all control. It's like punching with a knife sticking out. You risk missing, you risk bending the blade, and the target may not even go down instantly. Movies and games make it look easy, one stab to the neck, instant silence. Real life is messy. People don't just drop quietly. They scream, they struggle. In fact, relying on such a fragile mechanism could get the assassin killed, and then there's the famous story from the first Assassin's Creed game, to use the blade, you must cut off your ring finger. It looked brutal and symbolic. But historically? Utter nonsense. Real killers would never handicap themselves for a gadget. That idea was pure drama, a way to shock the player. Later games even retconned it, because it was just too impractical. So if hidden blades didn't exist, what did real killers use? The answer is much simpler, and far more effective. They used daggers, reliable, sharp, easy to hide. They hid blades in clothes, up their sleeves, inside walking sticks. In India, warriors even used katars, claw-like weapons that extended from the fist. In Europe, some assassins carried poison needles disguised as jewelry. These weapons had one thing in common, they were simple. No moving parts, no springs to jam. When your life depends on a weapon, the last thing you want is a malfunction. This is why the hidden blade feels like such a lie. Not because it's ugly, but because it tricks us into thinking it's superior. In truth, it's inferior to almost every real assassin's tool in history. If the assassins had actually tried to rely on such a device, most of them wouldn't have survived long enough to become legends, and yet, here's the twist. The hidden blade may be fake, but it's one of the most powerful ideas ever created in gaming. Ubisoft took a simple fantasy, the dream of a secret, deadly weapon, and turned it into the core symbol of an entire franchise. The moment you see that blade slide out, you know exactly what it means: stealth, danger, freedom. It became more iconic than any real historical dagger. And that's why millions of fans, even people who never played Assassin's Creed, know about it. It entered pop culture. It inspired cosplayers, collectors, and weapon makers. You can buy replicas online right now. Not because it works, but because it feels powerful, and that is the great irony. The hidden blade doesn't work in reality. But as a piece of storytelling, as a cultural symbol, it's unstoppable. People believe in it because they want to. Because deep down, we all want to feel like we could carry a secret weapon that makes us invisible, unstoppable, untouchable. So yes, the hidden blade is a lie. A beautiful, captivating lie. It never existed in history. It could never work in practice. But in our minds, in our stories, in the games we love, it's more real than any rusty dagger ever was. That is the true power of a legend. Not to kill, but to inspire. And that's why the hidden blade, even as a lie, will never be forgotten.